There's nothing like mentioning the movers and shakers of the Afrobeats industry without mentioning the name Don Jazzy. Literally, this is common knowledge. Many recognize him as the god of talent discovery, the lord of Mavin record, and the king of giveaways, and of course, Jazzy Burger. But just like many other success stories, this man started from way back, as far back as working with the likes of Kanye West and Jay-Z. Yes, that type of scratch. And it will surprise you to know that his rise didn't start from Mavin Records. Let's go back to where it all began. Growing up in the notorious streets of Ajégúnlẹ̀, Lagos, young Don Jazzy had music humbly screwed into every part of him. He was deeply involved in his family's church choir, where he played multiple instruments, rotating between alto, bass, and tenor. Quite the kid who lived and loved music. Anyone could tell just by watching him play. Then came 2000, and Don Jazzy had just completed his studies at Ambrose Ali University, graduating from the Department of Business Administration, which probably explains why he's a good businessman. Anyway, shortly after graduating, he moved to London to further his studies abroad. However, things took a different turn. As upon arriving in London, Don Jazzy quickly changed his mind and switched routes. He started playing instruments in church bands and even in Jide Court's Juju band, where he earned about £150 to £200 per gig. He balanced this with a series of menial jobs, taking on whatever work he could find. For quite some time, Don Jazzy kept juggling his band gigs and menial jobs until he struck a small jackpot, securing a deal with a three-man band called Solek Crew. The group consisted of saxophonist and a lead vocalist, Solek, an instrumentalist named Michael, and Don Jazzy himself. Solek, being more experienced, took Don under his wing, teaching him how to program beats on his keyboard. As the group gained traction, their earnings increased significantly, ranking in anywhere between £500 to £1,000 per gig. They performed everywhere, from restaurants and bars to private events and even weddings. Their growing reputation eventually landed them a prestigious gig in 2002, which was performed at the wedding of the daughter of the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo. Well, just like all good things, Solek Crew eventually came to an end. The group broke up, cutting their glory days short and leaving Don Jazzy without a steady source of income. With no choice, he went back to juggling his menial jobs. But one thing everyone would agree on about raw talent is it never stays hidden for long. No matter how much time passes, the right person will always recognize it. As fate would have it, that person turned out to be JJC, a Nigerian producer already making serious waves under the Big Brother's R&B and hip-hop group. One day, he stumbled upon a track with beats so captivating that he had to know who was behind them. Blown away by what he heard, he set out to find the creative mind responsible, and that mind was none other than Don Jazzy. JJC eventually found Don Jazzy, and of course, Don was more than ready to jump on any opportunity to work with him. This was exactly what he had been hoping for since his last crew fell apart. So he made his way to JJC's studio, eager to see what was in store for him. It was in that studio that Don Jazzy learned how to produce music on a computer for the first time. He experimented and made a beat, one he would later jokingly refer to as the wackest song he ever made. But even if that first attempt wasn't perfect, it didn't change the fact that he had serious potential. JJC saw it too. Instead of dismissing him, he encouraged Don, giving him the space and time to improve his skills, and it worked. Before long, Don Jazzy had mastered the craft and got so good that he started producing beats not just for the group, but also for other artists, including white musicians in the UK. As beautifully and smoothly as things were going for them, it didn't take long before they started to go sour, eventually leading to a fallout. The fallout between Don Jazzy and JJC didn't happen overnight though. It was one of those slow-burning tensions that eventually exploded. See, Don Jazzy had been putting in the work, making beats, learning the ropes, and proving his worth to the Big Brother studio. But despite his obvious talent, he felt like he was still playing second fiddle. JJC was the big boss, and Don, though a key player, wasn't exactly being treated like an equal. It didn't help that creative differences started creeping in. Don Jazzy had his own evolving style, which led to moments where he felt undervalued. He had poured his heart into the beats, yet his contributions weren't acknowledged the way he had expected. He wanted more, probably more control, more recognition, and most importantly, more say in his own future. And so, Don Jazzy made a bold move. He walked away. To be honest, he made a risky move, but one that would change the course of his life forever. Now here's where fate stepped in. Around the same time, there was another Nigerian hustler in London trying to carve his own path in music, Dakpo Oyebanjo, that person we all better know today as D'banj. The two had crossed paths a few times at the studio, but their bonds hadn't truly formed yet. But now, both of them found themselves in similar positions, outsiders looking for a way in. And what do two hungry, ambitious dreamers do? They team up. At first, it was just two guys with nothing to lose, bouncing ideas off each other, experimenting with sounds, and dreaming of something bigger. They started working on what would later become their debut album, No Long Thing, and while London had given them opportunities, they both knew one thing, that Nigeria was where they needed to be. Back home, a revolution was already happening. The Nigerian music industry was evolving, and young artists like Two-Face Idibia and Style Plus were proving that local talents could take center stage. Seeing this, Don Jazzy and D'banj decided to take a leap of faith and return to Nigeria in 2004. But they weren't just coming back as struggling artists. If they were going to make waves, they needed full control of the music. And that's how Mo Hits record was born.
So the moment we came into Nigeria and we worked on the No Long Thing album, we were lucky enough to have one or two hit songs from there just take off. So at that point, I think I had like my own aha moment.
Now, if you think Mo Hits started as just two of them, you'd be mistaken. The duo knew they needed a solid crew, so they started building. First, they brought in their brothers, K-Switch, D'banj's younger brother, and The Prince, Don Jazzy's younger brother. Yes, for a lot of you that do not know, The Prince is Don Jazzy's younger brother. Well, it didn't stop at just bringing the brothers in. D'banj also introduced his friend, a rapper named Dr. Sid, into the mix, and then they also brought in the golden find, Wande Coal. Don Jazzy had spotted Wande Coal at the University of Lagos and immediately knew he was special. His voice, his delivery, everything about him screamed superstar. With Wande Coal on board, Mo Hits All Stars was officially complete. A squad of young hungry Nigerians ready to take over the Nigerian music scene. And yes, they really did it. It probably will look like an exaggeration to you when I call what they did a movement, but it's not. I mean, they had the entire Nigerian music industry on a chokehold. There was no escaping the Mo Hits wave. From wedding events, clubs, street parties, or even just anyone blasting music from their car speakers. Mo Hits was everywhere, and 2007's Curriculum Vitae was proof of that. That album introduced Nigeria to the full force of Mo Hits and established the crew as more than just D'banj and Don Jazzy's project. It had bangers like Pere, Booty Call, and Move Your Body, each showing different flavors that every Mo Hits member brought to the table. For real, the success of Curriculum Vitae turned the group into the hottest collective in Africa. In 2008, D'banj was fully in his Coco Master era. His third album, Entertainer, was nothing short of explosive. Tracks like Bonu Feli Feli, Suddenly, and Fall in Love became instant classics. At this point, D'banj wasn't just big in Nigeria, he was a huge deal across the continent, and Don Jazzy was the brilliant strategist behind us all. But then came 2009 and everything changed. This was the year Wande Coal dropped Mushin to Mo Hits. The project was a masterpiece in vocal performance, songwriting, and production. Songs like Bumper to Bumper, You Bad, and Ololufe turned Wande Coal into a national treasure almost overnight. Even today, if you ask music lovers to name the greatest Nigerian album of all time, Mushin to Mo Hits will always be in the conversation. With every release, Mo Hits was proving that they weren't just hot at the moment, they were shaping the future of Nigerian music. Their artists were booked and busy, their songs were everywhere, and their beats were setting the standard for production quality. From 2006 to the early 2010s, if you weren't rocking with Mo hits, were you even listening to music? But like every great dynasties, things started to get a bit shaky. The industry was changing, new players were emerging, and the partnership that had built an empire was about to face the biggest test yet. The divide between Don Jazzy and D'banj had started forming when GOOD Music, owned by Kanye West, signed them both in 2011. For D'banj, this was everything he had dreamed of. The big leagues, the American music industry. He was already moving in those circles, rubbing shoulders with the greats. To him, this was it. Mo hits had conquered Nigeria and Africa. Now, it was time to take it to the world, but Don Jazzy wasn't convinced. It wasn't that he didn't believe Afrobeats could go global. In fact, he knew it would, but he also knew how it had to happen. It needed time. It needed a solid foundation back home. Nigeria was still the core, the heartbeat of the movement. If they abandoned it too soon, they risked losing everything they had built. And when he co-produced Liftoff for Kanye West and Jay-Z, only for the Afrobeats element to be watered down, it was the confirmation he needed. To Don, this was real proof that the world wasn't ready for their sound the way it should be heard. They wanted to change it, to make it fit into their mold instead of embracing it for what it was, and that exactly didn't sit right with him. So while D'banj was chasing the American dream, Don Jazzy was growing more and more disillusioned. The conversation started getting heavy, and little by little, the brotherhood that had once been unshakable started crumbling. By early 2012, the writing was on the wall. Mo hits fell apart, and this time, there was no saving it. With its dissolution, Don Jazzy was faced with a new challenge, which is the need to rebuild from scratch. But if there was one thing he had proven over the years, it was that he knew how to turn setbacks into stepping stones. So, in May of the same year, 2012, he officially launched a new record label, Mavin Records. To introduce Mavin Records to the world, he released a debut ensemble album titled Solar Plexus. The project featured the familiar faces of those who had stayed with him from the Mo Hits days, Dr. Sid, The Prince, and Wande Cole. But there was one fresh addition to the family, one that signaled the label's evolution. Tiwa Savage, introduced as Mavin's first lady.
Because we needed a female touch to the record label, and who better to take the spot than Miss Tiwa Savage. I think she's an amazing singer, songwriter, artist, performer.
Right from the start, Don Jazzy made it clear that this was more than just a new name. The album's opening track laid out the vision with bold statement, Mavin, defined as a person exceptionally skilled in any field, a person with special knowledge or ability who performs skillfully, synonymous with hotshots, superstars, sensation, genius, champion. With these words, you can tell he wasn't just defining Mavin Records, he was preparing the world for what is yet to see. Just like the Mo Hits era, Don Jazzy initially remained behind the scene at Mavin Records, focusing on what he did best, crafting beats, producing records, and weaving his signature Serenious ad-libs into the music. But this time, he wasn't just thinking about making hits. He deeply wanted to build a solid music empire, and for that, he needed someone who could handle the business side of things while he worked his magic in the studio. He brought in Tega Ogenejobo, a marketing genius with a sharp eye for business and strategy. From the very beginning, Don Jazzy relied on him to help him shape Mavin into a powerhouse. Ogenejobo stepped into his role of brand and marketing executive, ensuring that every move Mavin made resonated with the public. For 5 years, he worked behind the scenes, handling promotions, partnerships, and brand positioning, while Don Jazzy focused on developing artists and producing chart-topping hits. His efforts paid off. Over time, Ogenejobo's influence grew, and he climbed the ranks to become Mavin's chief operating officer. Don Jazzy ensured Mavin Records carefully selected and nurtured talents, ensuring that every new addition to the roster brought something fresh to the table. By February 2014, the 5-artist label had expanded to 8, with the introduction of Korede Bello, Dija, and Ricardo Banks, but their signing was a strategic rollout. Don Jazzy knew that just unveiling new artists wasn't enough. their new artist had to be launched with impact. That's where Dorobuchi came in, the 2014 smash hit. Featuring the entire Mavin crew, it introduced Korede Bello, Dija and Ricardo Banks to the world in a way that made them instantly recognizable. Their chemistry was undeniable, and when they followed with Adobe later that year, they solidified their status as the next big stars of Afrobeats. And you see, that's the unique thing about the Mavin's record. No other record label in Nigeria does it like them. 3 years later, in February 2017, Don Jazzy decided that Mavin's record was ready for another wave of expansion. This time, he didn't just want vocalists, he wanted diversity. That led to the signing of Johnny Drill, Ladipo, then known as Paul, and the DNA twins. Johnny Drill brought a fresh alternative sound to the label, which is very much contrasting to the mainstream Afrobeat style Mavin record was known for. Ladipo filled the void of hip-hop in the label's lineup with his rap. Meanwhile, DNA Twins added a different direction with their unique fusion of pop and Afrobeats. Then came 2019, the year that marked a turning point for Mavin. That was when Rema and Crayon joined the label, bringing with them an entirely new energy. Discovered by the Prince, Don Jazzy's brother, Rema had already been making waves with his freestyle.
She just told me she don't like me. She's in anymore, she just wanna bite me. She don't even wanna hear me, she don't text me. Yeah, because I couldn't afford the Nike.
The Prince saw the potential, signed him to his newly established Jonesing World, and in partnership with Mavin prepared him for stardom. His self-titled EP dropped like a bomb, and in no time, Rema was being hailed as Afrobeat's next global superstar. Crayon, on the other hand, was another promising act. His style of blending street vibe with an addicting youthful sound quickly earned him a fan base. By January 2021, Don Jazzy made sure Mavin had refined its artist launch strategy, introducing what they called Mavin Activation. The first artist to be activated under this new system was Ira Star. Rather than just announcing her signing, Mavin created an entire narrative around it. A video was posted on the label's and Ira's X account.
Mavin activated.
Creatively unveiling her persona and simultaneously announcing the release of her self-titled EP. This method was not only effective, but also exciting for fans, making the new artist's debut feel like an event rather than just an industry move. Seeing the success of this rollout, Don Jazzy adopted the same formula for future signings. Later in 2021, Magix was introduced in a similar fashion.
Mavin activated.
When I'm looking at the mirror.
In 2022, Bayani and Boy Spice followed suit, each receiving their own unique activation videos that gave fans a glimpse into their personalities and artistry. Most recently, in 2023, Life Size Teddy became the latest addition to the Mavin's family, continuing the tradition. But beyond their flashy activations, there was a deeper process at play. Don Jazzy wasn't just throwing artists into the spotlight, he basically was grooming them. This behind-the-scenes development took place at the Mavin Academy, an initiative that officially started with Rema in 2018. Instead of rushing artists into the market, Don Jazzy scouted for talents on social media, reaching out to them and brought them into the academy, a space that he described as a place for growing and working under the radar. If you're very familiar with the case of Boy Spice, how he came into limelight, and remember how the internet went crazy, you would understand this. All we saw was a viral video of a young boy who was insanely talented, but more was at play. If you don't remember that, here's how it went down. According to Boy Spice, on December 25, 2019, Christmas morning brought him an unexpected surprise. Don Jazzy reached out to him with a message completely out of the blue. A few days earlier, his freestyle was shared by Kiss Daniel on his story, encouraging people to check it out. Whether that was how Don Jazzy discovered it remained unclear, as he hadn't been tagged in the video. According to him, he had no explanation. By January 7, 2020, the first meeting took place. It didn't take long before work began. Don Jazzy wasted no time, invited him to join the Mavin Academy. From that moment, the recording sessions kicked off, marking the start of an exciting journey. And this was very similar to Ira Star's rise as well. Don's commitment to artist development set Mavin apart. Having a roster full of stars wasn't enough for him. It was about ensuring that each artist had the foundation to sustain a lasting career. His magic lies in how he ensures his artists just don't exist, but thrive. Also keeping them in the spotlight, his social media over the years has moved from vibes to a full-on marketing weapon. One moment he's hyping up an artist's new song like it's the best thing since sliced bread. The next, he's cracking jokes, pulling in millions of eyeballs in the process. While at the same point, I guess being a music mogul just wasn't enough for him. Don Jazzy had already built an empire with Mavin, but deep down, he knew he was born to do more. So he did what any revolutionary would do. He expanded his hustle being a businessman. He started subtly with strategic brand partnerships and endorsements, but then he decided to step fully into the entrepreneurship world, and Jazzy Burger was born. Because why stop at making hit records when you can also serve up a solid mouth-watering burger? Launched in 2022, Jazzy Burger became an instant hit, not just because of the food, but because, well, it's Don Jazzy. His larger-than-life personality made the brand impossible to ignore. And just like his music, his business moves are never random. Every step feels calculated and very intentional. We could see that when he surprisingly introduced Jazzy Burger in Benin City during Rema's homecoming concert in 2024. Like always, he's one crazy businessman. Today, that kid from Ajegunle, Lagos is nowhere to be seen. What we have now is a full-fledged industry titan worth over $50 million. A man who has shaped the sound of a generation, built an empire from scratch, and turned his name into a brand bigger than just music. You don't need to argue that he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest. Just ask Rema or Ira Star.